Ambassador James Reed sat at the massive circular table, surrounded by representatives from 27 galactic species. The Galactic Council chambers gleamed with polished metals and hovering displays, a testament to the combined technological prowess of the assembled civilizations. Yet for all its grandeur, the Council had spent 4 Earth months accomplishing precisely nothing. The human delegation's request for defensive technology sharing is once again denied, announced High Counselor Vrock, the insectoid representative of the Thraxian Empire. His mandibles clicked in what Reed had come to recognize as smug satisfaction. Such capabilities would be inappropriate for a species that has only achieved interstellar travel within the last century. Reed tightened his jaw. This was the 12th rejection in as many weeks. Earth's provisional membership in the Galactic Council had brought trade opportunities, but little in the way of substantive alliance benefits. Meanwhile, border incursions from the aggressive Dreth Collective continued unabated in Earth's sector. "May I remind the Council," Reed said, keeping his voice measured despite his frustration, "that 3 human colonies have been attacked in the past month alone. We've provided evidence that the Dreth are testing our defenses." Counselor Maul, a blue-skinned diplomat from the ancient Tal-Uri civilization, waved a dismissive hand. Perhaps if humans hadn't expanded so aggressively into contested regions, such confrontations could be avoided. Reed nearly laughed at the hypocrisy. Every species here had colonized dozens, sometimes hundreds of worlds. Humanity had settled. "Just 7. The Dreth aren't in contested regions. They're in recognized human space," Reed countered. "And they're getting bolder. Our intelligence suggests they're planning something larger." "Human intelligence," sniffed Ambassador Prell of the Gundari Federation. "Always so imaginative." The implied insult hung in the air. Reed looked around the table, noting the expressions ranging from amusement to outright contempt. Only a few delegates, those from younger spacefaring races like the Vindali and the Ecos, showed any sympathy. Reed checked his communications pad, where a message from Earth Central Command had just arrived. The news was grim. Another colony attacked, this time with civilian casualties. The Dreth had destroyed an agricultural settlement on Proxima Centauri III. 42 dead, including children. Something hardened in Reed's chest. He had trusted the diplomatic process for too long. "Distinguished representatives," he said, rising to his feet. "For months, humanity has requested assistance against a clear and present threat. We've followed every protocol, submitted every required form, and waited patiently while this council deliberated. During that time, human lives have been lost." The chamber quieted as Reed's voice took on an edge they hadn't heard before. "Earth has just informed me that there's been another attack. Civilians murdered. Children." He paused, letting that sink in. "And yet this council continues to treat humanity as a naive newcomer, unworthy of protection under the very charter we signed." "Ambassador Reed," Vrock began, "these matters require careful—" "No," Reed interrupted, a breach of protocol that sent gasps around the table. "Humanity is withdrawing from these talks, effective immediately. We'll handle the Dreth situation ourselves." "You cannot simply leave negotiations," protested Mal. "There are procedures." "Watch us," Reed said, closing his diplomatic folder with finality. "When Earth joined this council, we were promised security in exchange for our resources and scientific innovations. That promise has been broken. Therefore, we are no longer bound by the technology-sharing restrictions placed upon us." The implication was clear. Earth had been holding back. "You would violate council directives?" Vrock asked, mandibles twitching nervously now. Reed smiled without warmth. "We're leaving the council. Your directives no longer apply." As he turned to leave, several delegates began shouting at once. Reed ignored them all, striding toward the exit with the rest of the human delegation following in tight formation. "This is a mistake, Ambassador," called Prell. "The Dreth are more powerful than you know." Reed paused at the doorway, looking back over his shoulder. "So are we." Admiral Ellen Torres reviewed the latest deployment data on the holographic display aboard the UES Defiant. Earth's entire defense fleet, all 47 warships, had been mobilized, their positions arranged in a protective net around human colonies. "It won't be enough if the Dreth launch a coordinated attack," said Captain Marcus Bell, her tactical officer. "No," Torres agreed, but it's all we have until the new ships come online. For decades, Earth had complied with Council restrictions on military technology, officially at least. Unofficially, a secret initiative called Project Prometheus had been developing weapon systems that far exceeded Council-approved specifications. The project had remained dormant out of respect for diplomatic relations, but Ambassador Reed's withdrawal from the Council had changed everything. The first Prometheus-class vessels will be ready in 3 weeks, Torres said. Until then, we maintain defensive positions and avoid direct confrontation if possible. The bridge communications officer interrupted. Admiral, we're receiving an emergency transmission from Eridani Colony. They're under attack. Torres's expression hardened. How many Dreth ships? Just one, ma'am. But it's massive, nearly 3 kilometers in length. A dreadnought. The Dreth were done with probing. Attacks. This was a statement of intent. Set course for Eridani. Maximum speed, Torres ordered. And contact Earth. Tell them to accelerate the Prometheus timeline. The Defiant shot into hyperspace, its engines straining beyond recommended limits. They arrived at Eridani 12 hours later to find devastation. The colony's orbital defenses had been obliterated, and surface installations were burning across the night side of the planet. The Dreth dreadnought hung in orbit like a massive predator, its dark hull absorbing nearby light. It dwarfed the Defiant. "They're hailing us," reported the communications officer. The main screen activated to reveal a Dreth commander, reptilian, with scaled skin and vertical pupils and yellow eyes. "Human vessel," the Dreth said, voice translated through the ship's computer. "Your presence is noted. Your colony has been claimed for the collective. Depart immediately or be destroyed." Torres stood. "This is Admiral Torres of Earth Defense Forces. Eridani is a sovereign human colony. You are in violation of recognized borders and have committed acts of war. Withdraw or face consequences." The Dreth commander made a sound that might have been laughter. "Consequences? From a primitive species barely out of its cradle? The Council doesn't protect you. Nothing protects you." "We protect ourselves," Torres replied. "This is your final warning." The transmission cut off. Moments later, the Dreadnought's weapon systems began powering up. "They're targeting us," Captain Bell reported. "Energy readings suggest their main cannon is charging." Torres took a deep breath. "Deploy countermeasures Alpha through Delta." From the Defiant's launch bays, 4 small, unremarkable probes shot out, accelerating toward the Dreth vessel. To standard scans, they would appear to be simple reconnaissance drones. They were not. When the probes reached their designated positions around the dreadnought, Torres gave the command. "Activate Prometheus Protocol." The probes simultaneously generated quantum-locked fields that temporarily disrupted the dreadnought's shields. For precisely 3.8 seconds, the massive ship was vulnerable. "Fire," Torres ordered. The Defiant launched a single missile, a prototype weapon developed in the Prometheus labs. It struck the dreadnought's unshielded hull and detonated not with conventional force, but with a cascading energy reaction that spread across the enemy vessel's systems, shorting out critical components and leaving it dead in space. "Target neutralized," Bell reported, stunned at how quickly the battle had ended. Torres nodded grimly. "Begin rescue operations for the colony, and prepare a message for Earth Command. Tell them the Prometheus weapons work exactly as designed, and tell them to expect company soon." She was right. By the next day, 3 Galactic Council vessels arrived at Eridani, ostensibly to investigate the incident. Their real purpose was obvious. They wanted to see what had taken down a Dreth dreadnought. Torres denied them access to the wreckage. "Council jurisdiction no longer applies in human space," she informed them. Ambassador Reed made that quite clear. The Council chambers erupted in chaos as the recording of the Eridani incident played on the central display. High Counselor Vrock called repeatedly for order, his mandibles clicking rapidly in agitation. "This technology cannot exist," shouted Ambassador Prell. "The humans have violated every arms limitation in the Charter." "The humans left the Charter," Mal reminded him coldly. "And perhaps if we had addressed their security concerns, they would not have felt compelled to reveal these capabilities." The recording showed the Dreth dreadnought, a vessel class that had intimidated even the most advanced Council races, being disabled by a single shot from a comparatively tiny human ship. The implications were staggering. We must reconvene. The human delegation immediately, said Vrock. This situation requires diplomatic resolution. The humans aren't answering our communications, reported a junior diplomat. They've isolated all their colonies and restricted access to their space. Councillor Traz, representing the Vindali, stood up. As one of the youngest spacefaring races before humanity's arrival, the Vindali had often found common ground with Earth's representatives. Perhaps, Traz suggested carefully, we should consider what the humans actually wanted from us. They requested defensive technology sharing against a specific threat. The same Dreth who have been violating borders across the Orion Arm for decades while this council debated semantics. You go too far, Counselor, Vrock warned. Do I? Traz challenged. The humans didn't ask for much. Basic shield harmonics, point defense systems, nothing that would have upset the balance of power. Yet we denied them at every turn, and now we're shocked they developed something far more advanced on their own. The council chambers fell silent as the delegates considered this perspective. There's more, said a Taluri scientist who had been analyzing the recording. These human weapons don't match any known design principles. They're not merely advanced versions of existing technology. They operate on completely different principles. Impossible, scoffed Prell. They're barely a century into interstellar travel. Yet the evidence is before us, Mal said quietly. We have gravely misjudged them. The discussion was interrupted when a diplomatic aide rushed into the chamber. Urgent news, she announced. The Dreth Collective has launched a full-scale assault on 3 human colonies simultaneously. Displays around the chamber updated with tactical information. 15 Dreth warships, including 3 dreadnoughts, had entered human space. The humans cannot withstand such a force, Vrock said. Not even with their new weapons. I wouldn't be so certain, Mal replied. But regardless, we should offer assistance. The Dreth violating recognized borders threatens council authority. Shall we vote on intervention? Asked Vrock. Before they could, another update appeared. The Dreth fleet had engaged human defenses at the colony of New Terra. The council watched in stunned silence as 7 previously unknown human vessels emerged from behind the colony's moon. These ships were unlike the conventional human designs, sleeker, darker, with energy signatures that confounded the council's sensors. The Prometheus fleet had arrived. What followed was not a battle, but an execution. The human vessels systematically disabled the Dreth ships using weapons that bypassed shields entirely. Not a single human craft was lost. Within 20 minutes, the entire Dreth assault force was neutralized. By the ancestors, whispered Prell. What have we done? Vrock stood, his posture rigid with concern. We must reach out to the humans immediately. With technology like this, unchecked by council oversight. He didn't need to finish the thought. Everyone understood the implications. Humanity had been pushed away, treated as insignificant, and had responded by revealing themselves to be potentially the most formidable military power in the sector. I propose a formal delegation, said Mal. Not to demand, but to request their return to the council. With full membership status. The vote was unanimous. General Thomas Ward stood in Earth's orbital command center, observing the tactical display that showed the aftermath of what was already being called the 3-hour war. The Dreth Collective, which had terrorized multiple species for centuries, had been decisively defeated by the 7 vessels of humanity's Prometheus fleet. Sir, said his aide, Lieutenant Diana Wilson, we're receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council. Priority 1. Ward nodded. Put it through. The holographic image of High Counselor Vrock appeared, flanked by representatives Mal and Traz. Their body language, even across species, conveyed clear discomfort. General Ward, Vrock began. The Council extends its congratulations on your victory against the Dreth aggressors. Ward said nothing, waiting. We wish to express regret that our earlier dismissal of your security concerns led to this unfortunate conflict, Vrock continued. The Council has voted unanimously to invite Earth to rejoin our assembly, this time with full membership status and privileges. That's a generous offer, Counselor, Ward replied neutrally. But I believe Ambassador Reed made our position clear. Earth no longer requires Council protection. This isn't merely about protection, Mal interjected smoothly. Full membership would grant humanity access to trade routes, scientific exchanges, and diplomatic recognition across all Council territories. All things we requested previously and were denied, Ward pointed out. Traz stepped forward. General, if I may speak plainly, the Council made errors in judgment regarding humanity. We underestimated both your technological capabilities and your restraint in using them. Restraint? Ward raised an eyebrow. Yes, Traz said. Your forces disabled rather than destroyed the Dreth fleet where possible. You minimized casualties. These are not the actions of a species that should be feared. Ward considered this. It was true that Admiral Torres had given strict orders to capture rather than kill when feasible. Not out of weakness, but principle. The Council has also voted to form a joint task force to address remaining Dreth threats, Vrock added. With human leadership, if acceptable. Now they were getting to the real point. The Council wasn't just afraid of humanity's weapons. They wanted access to them. I'll relay your invitation to our leadership, Ward said carefully. But understand this. If humanity returns to the Council, it will be as equals. No technology restrictions, no second-class status. Of course, Vrock agreed quickly. We would welcome humanity's unique perspective. The transmission ended, and Ward turned to Lieutenant Wilson. Contact Ambassador Reed. Tell him the Council is exactly where we want them. Nervous and accommodating. Wilson looked concerned. Sir, was this the plan all along? To demonstrate our capabilities and force the Council to reconsider our status? Ward smiled thinly. Let's just say that humanity's withdrawal from talks wasn't quite as impulsive as it appeared. Reed played his part perfectly, the indignant diplomat finally losing patience. It gave us the pretext to reveal just enough of Prometheus to send a message. And what message is that, sir? That humanity isn't to be dismissed, Ward said, looking back at the display showing the captured Dreth vessels. But also that we're not conquerors. We disabled their ships when we could have vaporized them. We protected our colonies without seeking revenge. That calculated restraint scares the Council more than any weapon. Because it shows discipline, Wilson realized. Exactly. Anyone can build a powerful weapon. Not everyone can resist using it to its full potential. Ward straightened his uniform. Now let's prepare for negotiations. The real work begins. Ambassador Reed sat across from the full Galactic Council delegation, his posture relaxed but alert. The past week had transformed his status completely, from ignored representative of a minor species to the most sought-after diplomat in the galaxy. Before we proceed, Reed said, I want to clarify Earth's position. We're willing to rejoin the Council, but only with certain guarantees. High Counselor Vrock nodded eagerly. Of course, Ambassador. The Council is prepared to offer humanity unprecedented concessions. Reed smiled slightly. Not concessions, Counselor. Recognition of equal status. He activated a holographic display showing the terms Earth required. Full voting rights, unrestricted research permissions, joint defense arrangements, and, most controversially, a complete restructuring of the Council's security response protocols. These terms would fundamentally alter how the Council has operated for 2,000 years, protested Prell. Yes, Reed agreed. That's precisely the point. The current structure failed not only humanity, but every emerging spacefaring race. The Dreth should never have been allowed to conduct border raids with impunity, while the Council debated procedural matters. Mal, who had been studying the document carefully, looked up. You're not demanding access to other species' military technology. I would have expected that to be your first request. Reed leaned forward. Because we don't need it. What we're proposing instead is a mutual defense pact with teeth. One that actually responds when member worlds are threatened. The implications hung in the air. Humanity wasn't interested in acquiring alien technology. They wanted to ensure the Council actually fulfilled its stated purpose of maintaining galactic stability. There's another matter, Reed continued. The Dreth prisoners taken during the conflict have provided interesting intelligence. Their attacks on human colonies weren't random aggression. They were sanctioned by someone on this Council. The chamber erupted in denials and demands for evidence. Reed waited patiently for the noise to subside. We have transmission logs, he said when quiet returned. Encrypted communications between Dreth Command and an entity using Council diplomatic codes. Someone wanted to test human defenses, perhaps hoping the Dreth would eliminate the troublesome newcomers. Vrock's mandibles twitched nervously. These are serious accusations, Ambassador. Such evidence must be verified by neutral parties. Agreed, Reed said smoothly. Which is why we're proposing a joint investigation as part of our return to the Council. Complete transparency from all parties. The room temperature seemed to drop several degrees as delegates glanced at one another suspiciously. Someone among them had betrayed not just humanity, but Council principles. There's more, Reed continued, seemingly indifferent to the tension he'd created. During our defensive operations, we discovered anomalies in the fabric of space near the Dreth homeworld. Our scientists believe they're artificial constructs, possibly ancient weapons or technologies being excavated by the collective. This revelation shifted the atmosphere again. If the Dreth were uncovering powerful artifacts, it could explain their recent aggression and represent a threat to all Council species. We propose a joint scientific and military expedition to investigate, Reed said. Led by human and Vindali forces, with Council oversight. Traz nodded in approval at the inclusion of the Vindali, one of the few races that had shown humanity respect from the beginning. You've thought this through thoroughly, Maul observed. We've had time, Reed replied with a hint of irony. All those months of being ignored in Council sessions gave us ample opportunity to develop alternative strategies. Vrock conferred briefly with other senior Council members before responding. The Council finds your terms acceptable in principle, though details will need refinement. We are particularly interested in this joint expedition. Reed allowed himself a genuine smile. Then, we have a foundation for humanity's return. But understand this clearly. We're not coming back as supplicants. Earth doesn't need the Council to survive. The question is whether the Council needs Earth. The implied threat was subtle but unmistakable. Humanity had proven itself capable of handling threats independently. Their return to the Council was a choice, not a necessity. One final point, Reed added. As a gesture of good faith, Earth is prepared to share limited defensive technology, specifically designed to protect civilian populations from the kind of attacks our colonies suffered. Not weapons, but shields and early warning systems. It was a masterstroke. The offer positioned humanity as responsible custodians of their advanced technology, rather than warmongers, while simultaneously demonstrating confidence by sharing innovations other species would have jealously guarded. The Council accepts your terms, Ambassador Reed, Vrock announced formally. Welcome back to the galactic community. As delegates applauded, Reed exchanged a knowing glance with General Ward, who had observed from the back of the chamber. Phase 1 was complete. Humanity had secured its position. Now came the real challenge, reforming a system that had stagnated for millennia. Dr. Leah Morrison had never imagined she would find herself aboard an alien vessel, yet here she was, on the bridge of the Vindali science ship Horizon Seeker. Alongside her stood Captain Aaron Foster of Earth's Diplomatic Corps, and Commander Trell, the Vindali expedition leader. Approaching the anomaly zone, reported a Vindali officer. Sensors are detecting unusual energy patterns consistent with the human data. The joint expedition had been underway for 3 weeks, investigating the spatial disturbances near Dreth territory. What had started as a diplomatic initiative had quickly evolved into something far more significant. These readings match what we found at New Terra, Morrison confirmed, studying the displays. Quantum fluctuations creating microtears in spacetime. Definitely artificial. The view screen showed nothing visually remarkable, just the blackness of space with distant stars. But their instruments told a different story. Something was hidden here, manipulating the fundamental forces of the universe. The Dreth were searching for this technology, Foster said. According to the intelligence we gathered from their captured ships, they called it the Legacy. Commander Trell's translucent wings fluttered slightly. A Vindali expression of concern. Many species have legends of precursor civilizations leaving behind powerful technologies. Most are merely myths. This is no myth, Morrison said. These energy signatures are unlike anything in current scientific records, but they're unquestionably designed. Someone, or something, built this. Their discussion was interrupted when the ship's sensors triggered an alert. Unknown vessel approaching, announced the tactical officer. Dreth configuration, but it's not responding to identification protocols. On the screen, a Dreth scout ship appeared, moving erratically. Its hull showed signs of damage, and its engines were emitting unusual radiation patterns. "Hail them," ordered Trell. After several attempts, a visual connection was established. The being that appeared on screen was Dreth in appearance, but something was clearly wrong. Its scales had an unnatural metallic sheen, and its eyes glowed with an internal light that no organic creature should possess. "You seek the legacy," the Dreth said, its voice overlaid with harmonic tones that made the universal translators struggle. "As did we. As did those before." "Who are you?" Foster asked. "What happened to your ship?" "We are improved," the creature replied. "The legacy transforms, adapts, perfects. We are its harbingers." Morrison felt a chill run down her spine. "It's some kind of cybernetic infection," she whispered to Foster. "The technology they uncovered is altering them." The transformed Dreth continued. "All will join the evolution. Resistance is inefficient." Without warning, the Dreth ship fired upon them. The Horizon Seeker's shields absorbed the impact, but warning indicators flashed across control panels. "That wasn't a standard Dreth weapon," the tactical officer reported. "Energy signature is similar to the spatial anomalies we're investigating." "Return fire," Commander Trell ordered. "Target their propulsion systems only." The Vindali ship launched precision strikes that should have disabled the Dreth vessel's engines. Instead, the damage appeared to heal almost instantly, metal flowing like liquid to repair itself. "Impossible," breathed Foster. Morrison was already analyzing the sensor data. "Self-repairing nanotechnology. Incredibly advanced. Captain, we need to retreat and report this immediately." "Agreed," said Trell. "Pilot, set course back to Council space, maximum speed." As they turned to flee, 3 more ships appeared on their sensors, all showing the same unusual energy signatures as the first. The situation had just become dramatically worse. "They're blocking our retreat vector," the pilot reported. Foster turned to Morrison. "Doctor, if this technology is as adaptive as it appears, conventional weapons won't stop it. We need alternatives." Morrison nodded, mind racing. "The Prometheus systems operate on quantum disruption principles. They might be effective against whatever this is. But we don't have any of those weapons on board." "No," Foster agreed. "But we do have a quantum communications array. If we can modify it to emit a targeted pulse at the same frequency as the anomalies, we might be able to temporarily disrupt whatever control system is operating these ships," Morrison finished. "It's worth trying." While Trell coordinated the ship's defenses, Morrison and Foster raced to engineering. Working with the Vindali technical team, they repurposed the quantum communications array, converting it into an improvised disruptor. "This might fry our long-range communications permanently," Morrison warned as they made the final adjustments. "Better than being assimilated by whatever those things are," Foster replied grimly. When the modified array was ready, they returned to the bridge. The situation had deteriorated. The Horizon Seeker's shields were failing under the combined assault of the transformed Dreth vessels. "Target all 4 ships and activate on my mark," Foster told the weapons officer. 3, 2, 1, now." The repurposed array emitted a pulse of energy that was invisible to the naked eye but registered as a massive spike on their instruments. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the attacking ships suddenly went dark, drifting aimlessly. "It worked," exclaimed Morrison. "Their control systems are offline." "Not for long," Foster cautioned, pointing to the sensors. Already one of the ships was showing signs of reactivation. "Get us out of here," Trell ordered. "Maximum speed to the nearest jump gate." As they fled, Morrison continued analyzing the data they'd gathered. "Captain, I think I understand what we're dealing with. This legacy isn't just technology. It's a self-propagating artificial intelligence. It's using the Dreth as hosts, integrating with their biology and ships to expand its influence." "An ancient AI weapon?" Foster asked. "Or perhaps an experiment that went wrong," Morrison suggested. "Either way, it represents a threat unlike anything the Council has faced." Trell's wings fluttered again, more pronounced this time. "If this intelligence has been awakened and is spreading through Dreth space." The implication was clear to everyone. The galactic balance of power hadn't just shifted because of humanity's advanced weapons or political maneuvering. A potentially Greater threat was emerging, one that might require all species to work together if they hope to survive. We need to get this information back to both Earth and the Council, Foster said. Everything has changed. The Grand Council chamber had never been so crowded. Representatives from all 27 member species were present, along with military, advisors, scientific experts, and diplomatic staff. At the center table sat the newly formed Crisis Committee. High Counselor Vrock, Ambassador James Reed, Admiral Torres, Commander Trell, and Representatives Maul and Traz. The situation is graver than we initially believed, Reed began, addressing the assembly. What Dr. Morrison and Captain Foster discovered isn't simply advanced technology. It's an adaptive, self-replicating intelligence that co-opts organic and synthetic systems alike. Holographic displays showed the transformed Dreth ships and the disturbing biological changes observed in captured specimens. We're calling it the Nexus, continued Admiral Torres. Based on our analysis, it appears to be a very ancient system designed to integrate disparate life forms and technologies into a single network. Whether it was created as a weapon or an evolutionary experiment gone wrong, we don't know. What we do know, added Dr. Morrison from her position near the displays, is that it's spreading rapidly through Dreth space. Our projections suggest that within 6 months it could reach Council territories. The chamber erupted in alarmed conversations. Vrock called for order. The immediate question, said Mal once quiet had returned, is how to contain this threat. Human Prometheus weapons have proven effective in temporarily disrupting the Nexus influence, but they're not a permanent solution. Reed nodded. Which is why Earth is formally proposing Project Unity. He activated a new display showing technical schematics and organizational charts. This initiative would combine the defensive capabilities of all Council races, integrating our various technologies into a coordinated response. Humanity offers complete access to our Prometheus systems in exchange for similar cooperation from other species. The proposal was revolutionary. Never before had the Council contemplated such extensive technology sharing, especially for military applications. This is unprecedented, Vrock said, mandibles working nervously. The security implications alone are irrelevant in the face of extinction, Reed interrupted. The Nexus doesn't discriminate between species. It assimilates all advanced life forms. Our only advantage is diversity, different approaches to technology, biology, and problem-solving that might reveal weaknesses in the Nexus system. Admiral Torres stepped forward. We've already begun analyzing how the Vindali quantum shielding might be integrated with Thraxian energy weapons and human disruption fields. Initial simulations are promising. Commander Trell spoke next. The Vindali fully support Project Unity. We have seen firsthand what this threat represents. Old rivalries and suspicions cannot matter now. Gradually, representatives from other species voiced their support. Even the typically isolationist Tal-Uri, represented by Mal, pledged their cooperation. There's another component to Project Unity, Reed continued once the major powers had agreed. We're proposing governance reforms to ensure rapid response capabilities. No more months of debate while colonies burn. This was met with more resistance, particularly from species that had dominated Council politics for centuries, but the evidence before them was compelling. The existing system had failed to address the Dreth threat, and now faced something far worse. Perhaps, suggested Counselor Traz, this crisis offers an opportunity to create something better than what came before. Not just a defensive alliance, but a true galactic community where all voices are heard. The debate continued for hours, eventually resulting in a historic vote. Project Unity was approved, along with provisional reforms to Council governance. A joint fleet would be assembled within weeks to establish a containment zone around affected Dreth space, while scientific teams worked to develop a permanent solution to the Nexus threat. As the session concluded, Reed found himself approached by High Counselor Vrock. I must acknowledge, the Thraxian said quietly, that we were wrong about humanity. We saw your species as impulsive, aggressive, and technologically primitive. We failed to recognize your adaptability and innovative thinking, the very qualities we now need to survive. Reed smiled slightly. Sometimes being the newcomers gives us a fresh perspective. We haven't had millennia to become set in our ways. Indeed, Vrock hesitated, then added, "There is a saying among my people. The strongest branch is the one most recently grown. I believe humanity may be that branch for the Council. New, flexible, yet surprisingly strong." Later, as Reed joined Admiral Torres, General Ward, and Dr. Morrison in Earth's diplomatic offices, he reflected on how dramatically circumstances had changed. 3 months ago, we couldn't get the Council to approve basic defense measures for our colonies, he remarked. Now they've unanimously endorsed the most extensive cooperative project in galactic history. Amazing what an existential threat will do for interspecies cooperation, Torres said dryly. Ward looked thoughtful. We got more than we hoped for, in a way. We wanted recognition and security. Now we've got genuine partnership. At a considerable cost, Morrison reminded them. The Nexus is no theoretical problem. If we can't stop it, everything we know could end. Reed nodded soberly. True. But I find myself optimistic. Not because the challenge is small, but because I've seen what happens when different perspectives unite around a common problem. He gestured toward the window, where ships from a dozen species could be seen docked at the Council station. Engineers and scientists from across the galaxy, working together on Project Unity prototypes. Humanity didn't join the galactic community just to survive, Reed said. We joined to contribute. Now we have that chance. As night fell on the station, lights from the assembled ships created a constellation of cooperation. Former rivals, now allies, brought together by humanity's departure from talks and their triumphant, necessary return. The galactic order had been forever changed, and a new era had begun.